Let me take a moment and talk about Riverside.fm. It allows you to record studio quality audio and up to 4K video. When you need to record audio and video, Riverside.fm can do it. So if you're looking for a hero platform for all your recording needs, from podcasts to webinars to any video content, Riverside.fm. I've got a promo code for you where you'll receive a 30% discount on the first 3 months of your subscription. I'll give it to you twice. The promo code is SHIPIT. All one word, SHIPIT, and you'll pick up a 30% discount on your first 3 months of your subscription. Riverside.fm.
In this episode of the Football History Rewind, part number 20, we discuss how football became known as the Gridiron, as well as many more history and rules of the game and champions for the season of 1903. These stories and more coming up in just a moment.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time. So as we come out of the tunnel of the Sports History Network, let's take the field and go no huddle through the portal of positive gridiron history with pigskindispatch.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of pigskindispatch.com, and welcome once again to the Pigpen, your portal to positive football history. And when we last left off on our History Rewind, part number 19, a challenge was issued as to why football is called the gridiron. Well, the best answer, after the lines were added to the fields 5 yards apart in 1882 to negotiate a new line to gain rule obtaining 5 yards and 3 downs. Someone high in the stands exclaimed that the field looked like a giant gridiron. How gridiron became associated with football? This is part of the truth, but not the whole story. The fields in 1882 had 23 horizontal lines, including the goal lines, and the fields were 110 yards long in those days, goal to goal. And there were only 2 lines, sideline to sideline, that were perpendicular to the other 23. A gridiron has much more of a grid pattern to it, which means there would need to be many more vertical lines to intersect the horizontal ones to give it a grid-like pattern. So many vertical lines were added to the football fields prior to the 1903 season due to a rule change that meant to make the game a bit more wide open, and thus reduce some of the roughness. The rule was that a player receiving the snap could, for the first time in history, advance it forward, providing that he crossed the line of scrimmage at least 5 yards away from the point where the snapper back initiated action on a particular play. Prior to this rule, only players receiving the ball second or more from the snap could advance the ball forward towards the opponent's goal line. This 5 yards distance was a difficult one for the 3 officials to determine without the assistance of anything, so a wise innovator of the rule, Walter Camp, requested 11 additional vertical lines to the sidelines be added, spaced evenly 5 yards apart all the way from one goal line to the opposite goal line. The field was 53 yards wide, so Camp did some quick math and had 2 inner and vertical lines closest to sidelines be only 1 1/2 yards away from each sideline. The additional vertical lines in conjunction with the already existing horizontal lines made a checkerboard pattern across the field of play. The ball was always placed on one of those vertical lines before the snap in relation to the progress obtained on the previous play. There were no hash marks as there are in our era of play, so in essence a play could start 1 1/2 yards away from one of the sidelines, and a person receiving the direct snap, usually the quarterback, could advance the ball now by running only if he crossed the line of scrimmage at least 1 vertical line or more away from one where the ball was snapped from. And there was another rules committee in March of 1903, and when that meeting, it produced the forward run by quarterbacks also started a rarely known rule. The rule stated that for the 1903 season, the teams would exchange goals and ends of the field after every point, after touchdown attempts, and after every goal from the field. Additionally, the team that scored upon had the choice of receiving the free kick or the option to kick it off themselves to the team that scored. I'm not totally sure why any team would have opted for this, or even if it was ever done. there must have been a good reason for the rule. Another part of the same rule stated that the teams would defend the opposite goals to start the second half than they did to start the first half. Another rule revision of note from the 1903 season was that the linesman was given the authority to pronounce a player as offsides, as well as penalizing players for tripping and unnecessary roughness to a back after that kick. Now, umpires had to determine if optional headgear was worn that it made the materials and construction deemed safe to both player and opponent alike. Head protectors made of sole leather and even paper mache were deemed as illegal materials for helmet construction. The game was being tamed a bit by the rules makers to help dissolve the public dissension due to its excessive injuries in the 1890s. It diffused the hot topic for the immediate future, but trouble still loomed large on the horizon for football, and its opponents would soon cross paths with the rules maker. Now let's take a couple peek looks at the 1902 season, which we failed to mention last time. The 1902 season saw that the Michigan Wolverines and the Yale Bulldogs were named as co-champions many years later. Michigan was chosen by the Billingsley Report, Colgate System, and the Helms Athletic Foundation with a perfect 11-0 record. Yale posted an 11-0-1 record, and it said that Park H. Davis named them, the Yale Bulldogs, as co-champions with Michigan. At the professional level, many believe that the Pittsburgh Stars were the best team in America. The Stars played against some strong oncomers, including those from Philadelphia, in an organized conference called the original National Football League. And remember, this is 1902, and withstood with the best record after all those opponents they faced. However, at the end of the year tournament, inside the confines of Madison Square Garden, we saw an all-star team representing the Syracuse Athletic Club. They defied the odds and won the first World Series of football. Now, we have a great article and podcast on that called The First National Football League. Make sure you check that out. It was just a couple weeks ago that we had that. Now, for the 1903 season, the best pro team in football in 1903 was the Franklin All-Stars. And again, in our early professional football series, we have a great podcast and article on Franklin, Pennsylvania All-Stars. They defeated all opponents, including those they faced in the second World Series of football held at Madison Square Garden near New Year's Day, right around the end of the year. Now, the best collegiate team, well, Princeton was elected by many in the nation for 1903 as being the top 1903 team in college football. According to the website tiptop25.com, Princeton's star and captain, John DeWitt, showed up for their 1903 team photo in his torn-up game day jersey, and the photographer, disapproving, went to find something else for him to wear. All the photographer could find was a bulky white sweater with a black peep. It was pictured. We have that 1903 Princeton picture on our website, pigskindispatch.com. Follow the show note link, and you will be able to see that. You'll see the captain dead smack in the middle of the picture with a white sweater. You cannot miss him. And like many potentially irrelevant accidents in college football history, this became a tradition, and thereafter at Princeton, the captain of the championship team was entitled to wear the white sweater. In the same season, two other national championship candidates experienced their own accident come tradition when Michigan left their water jug on a field in Minneapolis. Well, the national championship came down to an 11-0 Princeton record as the Eastern champions. And at this time, Michigan was 11-0-1 and was tied by a 14-0-1 Minnesota in the Midwest. As a result, Princeton was nearly unanimous selection for 1903, even among the latter-day selectors. Princeton was chosen as the best team by the Helms Foundation and Park H. Davis, while the National Championship Foundation later years stated that Princeton and Michigan both should be credited as the champions for 1903. Well, that's quite a bit to talk about here, and we'd like to thank a lot that we got from great things like the tiptop25.com, Park H. Davis's football, the intercollegiate game made in 1911, as well as some many more great periodicals that we've got. Take a look at newspapers.com with some great stories. The story of early football continues next time on the Football History Rewind in our next segment. So please look back for part 21 coming up next week, where we will cover the 1904 season and the rule changes as we talk about football year by year. Till tomorrow, everybody, have a great Gridiron Day. That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandom at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.